So hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Ames's Corner. How you all doing out there? So it's a rainy Sunday, and I can't think of anything better to do than to get cranking and get our hands dirty on Project Charity here. Thanks again all you guys who donated. We raised about $1,200, and it was more than enough to get everything we need to make this a safe car. And we'll get this thing into his hands hopefully the next 2 weeks or so. But for now, why don't we take a look at everything we've got for this car that we'll be taking care of today and next week. We got the brake caliper here, the left rear brake caliper. We got a set of rear rotors for it. We're just going to do one side. We're going to do them both so they're both, you know, nice new brakes at the same time. Now, we have some pads here from AutoZone Duralast pads. I know one of you guys said you were going to send me a set of pads. Unfortunately, these brakes have to go on today. I have to be able to drive this car for a week, so I couldn't wait for the shipping, but no big deal, no big deal. There'll be more 9000s to come. This isn't the last one that we're going to see on this channel, and if you ship some parts for this car that I may be replacing already today, don't worry, they will get used. We got a nice brand new heater core. Now, I thought about going to get the one from my old 9000, which is, you know, a used heater core, but these being all plasticky and how they get when they've been old, I think it's a safer bet. The price has come down. These used to be like well over $200, $250. Now they're, you know, I got this one for about $100, which is score, you know, rather a new one. In the car was this torsion bar mount, or rather engine upper link mount, which we'll take a look at later. It looks like the guy couldn't put this one in because you have to take the whole bracket out unless you can find another way to swap it. So we'll get that changed out, maybe not today. And then last but not least, and this is the thing that's big, this was more than I expected to be able to buy. We got 4 Ronal 16-inch Super Aero wheels with brandy new Mastercraft touring rubber. Nice, nice even wearing tires. We've used this on a few other cars, and we really like these tires. And for $100 a piece, I figure $400, he's got some nice all-season tread to get him through the snowy Maine winters. So yeah, let's get this rear ripped apart. Let's get these brakes done. We'll fix these brakes today. We'll fix the that loud exhaust leak so it's not as annoying to drive. We'll put those new wheels on, which I love the way they look with those. And we'll see if we can do that mount up top. So anyways, time's a wasting. Let's get those wrenches spinning. Alright guys, we got the wheel off here. We're going to tackle into this caliper. Metal on metal brakes. You can see it machine the rotor right down quite a bit because the pad just, you know, kept going and going with this stuck caliper. So the trouble is this brake hose looks pretty rough, so we got to get that off. But when you take a brake hose off, there's nothing to stop the brake fluid from coming out of the master cylinder, leaking all over the place, making a mess. And you really don't want the master cylinder to run dry because then you got to, you know, potentially bench bleed it. It can make issues when you're bleeding, so we don't want to have any issues. So I want to show you guys a little tech tip that I have that I use whenever I'm going to be opening up a brake line and opening the hydraulic side of brakes. What I like to do is put, you know, a little extension on the brake pedal to the seat, and you don't need a lot of force, just enough to hold the pedal down a little bit. What that does is it moves the plunger, the piston in the master cylinder a little bit, so the cups block off the ports for the reservoir so fluid can't leak out of anywhere. So if you got a blown brake line, you don't want it leaking all over your driveway, just put a little pressure on the pedal. Now this causes another concern that has to be dealt with, and when you push the brakes, most cars, whether the ignition is on or not, will power up the brake lights like we have here. So then you run the risk of killing the battery. If you're just going to be doing a quick caliper change and you're only going to have the brake lights on for 5-10 minutes, that's okay. But I think we're going to be fighting that line. We might even have to replace some of the steel line and flare it. So easy way around that. Some cars it's easy to get at the brake light switch. You can just unplug it. You can pull a fuse. But what I do, and I like to do, if you don't mind losing your radio station presets or resetting the check engine light, sometimes you don't want to do this if a car has to be inspected for a sticker, because you can, you know, cause it to fail a sticker and have to come back after it's done all its readiness checks. But in this case, we'll just pull the negative battery terminal, get it out of the way, and that solves the brake light issue. So no brake lights on, battery's not getting drained, and there'll be no fluid leaking. There'll be that initial little 3 or 4 drips, and then, you know, we'll keep the reservoir full and not get messy. So let me get this thing back up in the air. Alright then, let's see if this thing will come apart without any consequential damages. Let's get a drain pan. Just in case there'll be a little drippage. I like to keep it off the floor. Yeah, that should be alright. I'll move you guys a little bit, but that should be alright. So, this brake hose really isn't in bad shape. I've seen these things get really bad and not leak, so I think if we can get this out of the caliper, we'll be good to go. I'd rather not have to replace the whole metal line going all the way up to the front. So, now, whenever I'm going to undo something rusty like this, you never just undo it, because it always seems to hitch up. You always want to tighten it a little. Just a little. I just see that move a little bit. Now that tells me this is going to come right out. Score, guys, score. Yep. Always tighten, then loosen. You kind of want to sneak up on it and tell it, oh, I'm just going to tighten ya. Psych. Get this caliper out of the way. Love my micro lithium tools. Some of you guys said these things weren't worth their money, but these things haven't failed me yet. I've been using them for about 2 years now, and the first battery I ever bought, still going strong. So there's that. Let's get this cable out of here. These things can like to fight you a bit too. So, oh, that wasn't bad. That wasn't too bad. I wish everything came apart that easy. And we got this little tension spring. And that is one worn out brake pad. And there you have it. Well, that wasn't bad at all, guys, huh? Now we got to save this because there's a core on this where they'll rebuild it. And as promised, this should just be drip, drip, drip pouring brake fluid, but because we locked those brakes up, it's not going to leak any more than what it just did. All right, guys, getting this brake back together here, and come into my first issue, which just seems to always be the way when it's a Sunday and no place is open to get other parts. What's different here? Take a good look. Here's the bleeder. The bleeder's up here. So this is a right rear caliper, not a left rear caliper that I ordered. So that ain't gonna do anything for me today. Fortunately, I played with this caliper a little bit and I was able to get it to retract very smoothly. So I think the problem might have just been these sliders were stuck. So I'm gonna clean that out. It looks like we're gonna save a little more money because it did definitely retract nice and smoothly. So let me clean this thing up. We'll get the old one in, and you know, there's $60 we can save right off the top. Alright guys, we got these brakes all installed. I got the passenger side over there all done. So now it's time to bleed these brakes, and I don't have anybody here to help me. So what I use in a situation like this is I have this here vacuum evacuation kit. This is more designed to suck fluid out of something you can't get fluid out of, whether it's a diff cover or a differential you need to suck down. We would use this tool. Basically all it does is it creates a vacuum and will suck anything through that hose. It works splendidly well for vacuum bleeding brakes. One tip if you're ever going to use a vacuum bleeder I can give you guys is a little bit of Teflon tape on the bleeder, will let no air get through the threads, which can kind of not give you as much vacuum where you want it on the actual bleeder itself. So we'll screw this in here. And we just want to get it snug. So I've had this gravity bleeding. For those that don't know what gravity bleed, that means you just make sure there's enough fluid in the reservoir, and then you open the bleeders up and just let gravity bring the fluid from the high point and push the air bubbles out, because basically that's what we got to get out is all the air, or we'll have a spongy pedal. So we've got this in there and tight. I'm going to loosen it up about a half a turn, that way it's not a lot to close off when I'm done. We'll stick the evacuator on there. It's just a 1/4 inch piece of hose. Goes right on the fitting, fits on the bleeder really well, and probably about 30 seconds should do it. And that should be about it. Now, when your vacuum bleeding breaks, never shut the vacuum off until you've closed the fitting with the line on it, or you might suck some air back into the system. So, and there's that. Doesn't get any easier than vacuum bleeding brakes. Make sure it's snug. Alright guys, we got these rear brakes all done. That actually moves like it should now. Got those Super Aero wheels on there. Unfortunately, this one was driven so long with the rusty, dusty caliper that we're going to have to figure out how to chisel off that nasty rust scale on there and make that rim look good again. The other rims are in great shape though. Boy, they sure do look good with that nice new meaty rubber on it. But now it's time to turn our attention to this nasty exhaust. Now, you guys might remember we had the hole there, and it looks like since then it's pulled apart right here. Get some light on that. There you see, it's just ripped apart. This thing's literally hanging by a thread. So I think I'm going to cut this flange right off. We're just going to straight pipe this to here, and then we're going to eliminate this this resonator here. And what I got to make that happen is I've got a 90 and a 45 here, and that should pretty well get me where I need to be to remove that without any other pieces. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get this thing cut out of here and make some sparks fly with old Weldy. There wasn't much holding that on, huh? Junk. Nice. Don't need that anymore. That's how that's going to go. Now I just need to take a measurement and cut a piece of string. Sweet. And there it is. That is basically how we're going to do that. Quick, cheap, and easy. Alright guys, there it is, all in place. Fits in nice and tight. There's a nice little sound to it. Awesome.
Awesome. Two big things off the, well, three big things off the list.
There it is, guys. That's about it for today. We got a bunch of the big stuff right off the list. So what's next is we got the heater core here for next week. Got the heater core. And we got the we got a temp sensor to throw into it. And then we got that right front CV boot kit. And I think this thing, other than a little bit of touch up on the body, is going to be ready to go to Donnie. So anyways, guys, I want to thank everybody out there for watching. I want to thank you really big times for contributing and donating to this. We could still use a little bit more to help him put it on the road. I'd like to give him at least a year of AAA coverage on us, so that way if anything is to happen to this car, it won't be left on the side of the road, and you know, it won't slip into disrepair without me knowing about it. So if we could just get a little more, that'd be great. I'll leave a link down in the description for the PayPal I'm using for it. And on that note, guys, until next time.
Thank you.
Woo! Good job.